That's where we're keeping our focus this morning, the fallout of the APC primaries. And to do just that, let's flip over to our Abuja studios with Ajuri.
A man who is at the center, if you will, of conversations going on around whether or not there's a crisis brewing in the governing All Progressives Congress, and that is the National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Mr. Lanre Isa Onilu. You're very welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Good morning, audience.
Well, the issues are many. Let's start from this. Is there a crisis in your party?
Far from it. There is no crisis. Well, there are conflicts. And those are two different things. And conflicts are part of politics. And what a party needs to do is to have a very strong conflict resolution mechanism. We do have, and we are deploying that.
When you look at the totality of kind of what is unfolding and knowing how much of this is as a result of what occurred during the party's primaries, how much of what is going on now has to do with mismanagement by the national leadership of your party, and how much of it has to do with, essentially the intransigence of party members to accept the results of the primaries?
Yeah, but I would call it mismanagement. This is the first time we have to commend the leadership of APC, that this is the first time a party will come out and say, let's expand the scope. Let's give every party member the opportunity to have a say in who represents them. The issue of direct primary is not something that we are very used to. But we also know that if we intend to deepen democracy, then you have to expand the scope. That is for participation. And so we adopted direct primary option where possible or where specific request is made. You know, we gave the opportunity to each state to meet, the stakeholders should meet, where the majority say we want direct primary, which is actually the preferred option of the party. Because if you're going to face the general electorate in the general election, then you should be able to face the party members, to be nominated to represent the party. So, but there will be issues with that. We are talking of a process that involves human beings. First experience in most places. So there are lessons to learn from the exercise going forward. So, but it was not mismanaged. There are issues, but there are mechanisms to correct that. And that's why immediately we put up an appeal panel that listens to people, receive petitions, and address those issues.
No, but for you to say that there's no mismanagement, you know, there are those who just very vehemently disagree with that notion, simply on the basis of what has happened in places like Zamfara, where you have an unprecedented situation unfolding, for at least for a major party in the country, where a primary could not be conducted on time in such a manner that the resulting candidates could be sent forward to the INEC by the deadline. Now the party cannot field candidates for any elective office in Zamfara state, according to INEC stand as of today. I mean, is that not clearly a result of political mismanagement on behalf of the leadership of your party?
Yeah, what happened in Zamfara is not the story being told by INEC. Zamfara, we had our primary. We have the evidence to back that up. If you say there was crisis during the primary, not only in Zamfara, but we had a date to submit, we had a deadline to meet, which was October the 18th. Did we meet the deadline?
According to INEC, not. According to INEC, not.
We have evidence that we did. And it's also, we also have to note that it is not right for you to try to preempt a process. The primary, post-primary issues, resolution, and submission of candidate, you have a deadline for it. And midway before even the deadline expires, you have a letter coming from INEC when we have evidence that, for instance, in Kano, PDP did not even do any primary. And no such letter was written to PDP. And in any case, it is within our rights to feed candidates. That's what the law says. it is also within the INEC's mandate to receive such. If there is any dispute at all, it has to come from other parties to the dispute, not the umpire. So we are on this issue. We've filed in our candidate list, and we hopefully think INEC will eventually avail itself of the available information about what happened, and then be convinced that the current position is not tenable. And then they will do the right thing. We are very certain about that.
One of the major kind of accusations leveled against the national chairman of your party, Comrade Adams Oshomole, has been that in his handling of the various primaries around the country, that he has not been fair, that he has not applied the same rules, the same principles to each case. And one of the major examples that's cited, of course, is the example of Ogun State. Comparing the two scenarios in Ogun State and, say, Lagos State, for example, where you had, of course, major power broker Asiwaju Bola Tinubu in a particular camp during the Lagos primaries, of course, at odds at that time with Governor Akinwumi Ambode. And essentially, when that primary was conducted, by the panel chaired by Clement Ibri, initially the national chairman came out and said, look, we don't accept the results, this was a bad process, etc. Then the very next day, within 24 hours, he comes out and he says, we're going to accept the results. Of course, those results ended up favoring Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. The governor of Ogun State now says, this is a double standard going on because the same principles were not applied to our matter. Is that not a clear case of injustice essentially being done on the part of the national leadership of your party to certain members of your party?
Well, I think if we speak to the merit of what happened in Ogun and that of Lagos, they will know they are not the same. Governor Moson is a leader of this party, someone we have so much respect for. And I think as time goes on, it will come around and we will all look forward to having a common position on this issue. When we had the primaries in Lagos, our panel, the panel sent by the leadership of the party, was on ground in Lagos. In Ogun, there was no such panel. In fact, what happened in Ogun was what the Ogun State government organized, which is not the procedure. The procedure is that the panel will come from the national leadership. We have 5-man panel for every state, and then they will arrive, and then they will conduct the exercise. No such panel. You would recall, I mean, it was on national television, that actually was the secretary to the state government of Ogun State that acted as the returning officer for that primary in Ogun. That was not a member of our panel. He was not. And then somehow down the line, perhaps it occurred to him that I shouldn't be the one doing this. Then he passed this on to the state chairman of APC, who also is not, it wasn't within his rights to do that. It is only the NWC that can conduct primary in the state. The state chapter can't do that for local government. That is the procedure. So what happened in Ogun, that period, was not from NWC. And we did have a panel that also conducted a primary after that in Ogun. And it appeared, I mean, from the record that we have, that maybe the candidate that we are talking about didn't participate in that primary.
Let's be clear about what the allegations really are, because on the one hand, you're saying that Governor Amosun essentially, was engaging in self-help by conducting a primary that was not conducted by a panel sent by the NWC, as opposed to, of course, Dapo Abiodun's, primary. Now, in view of that, the allegation is that the NWC has been sending panels to essentially justify the ends that they have already essentially established ahead of time. It's just a matter of essentially conducting it as a means to that end. What is your response to that allegation when someone like Governor Amosun says that the panel was sent to do a particular political hatchet job, and that his candidate was never going to be involved in a free and fair primary done by the panel sent by the NWC?
Yeah, but you see, I think when you have a situation where there's a contest, you give yourself a chance for redress when you go through the process. But if you opt out of the process, you actually deny yourself that chance to seek redress. Because the basis for redress is to come out and say, I was not fairly treated. But if you opt out, which is also democratic, the refusal to participate is democratic, it's a choice. And democracy is about people making choices and having the opportunity to do that. That candidate did not participate. So how, I mean,
Honorable Akinlade.
Yeah, that would be speculative to say I would have been cheated or I would not have been treated fairly. You needed to have participated, and then the outcome will now be for you as evidence to show, oh, I did participate, but this is what came out of